Welcome back to Drive Your Thoughts podcast. I'm your host, Master Coach Carrie Marshall, and it's time to go after those goals.
Yeah, whether ready or not, life's coming hard, no breaks, no stop. And if you put me on the spot, don't get it twisted, I never drop. If you feel a bit out of control and out the box, here's a way that you could drive your thoughts. Turn this podcast on, it's a lock. Carrie Marshall on the clock.
Well, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have one of my really good friends here, Leigh Bennett. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Care.
Well, we are going to get into a lot of things here on the podcast, but the very first thing that I want to talk about is your job. So if you can just kind of introduce us to what you do, and then we can get into all the questions that we're going to kind of go over today.
Okay, amazing. So like my job, or like my job as a mom? Just kidding. So I founded Amara Med Spa Salon and Boutique just about, coming on like 19 years. So at the end of 2004, I am a master esthetician by trade for 23 years, which those of you that don't know what that is, we take care of people's skin and waxing, and we can do all sorts of things like lash extensions and nails and lasers and cool sculpting and just all of those things in the beauty world that have to do with aesthetics. So by trade, that's what I am. And then Amara Med Spa started way back when, and I've done that ever since, and it has been incredible. And I love that I've gotten to work in my career for pretty much my whole life so far.
And now for people that don't live in Utah, it's now like Amara Med Spa, but also it has kind of transitioned into what else as well?
Well, so when we first started, clear back in 2004, because aesthetics was my background, we started with just aesthetics. My sister was apprenticing under me. And then as we transitioned, the salon that I worked in, was looking to close down or to get bought out. It's kind of a tricky industry, and we can talk about that later if you'd like. And that happens all the time. And so I was kind of left to figure out what to do. And so in the beginning, it was just aesthetics. Then we hired on a massage therapist, and then we hired on an injector, and then more estheticians. And then in 2009, when we brought it into a big commercial space, that's when we brought in hair. And so we brought in salon and stuff like that. We also brought in all of the like boutique side of things, which we carry, clothes, shoes, swim, all of the name brands that you can think of that you love, that maybe like a Nordstrom's or Anthropologie would carry, we carry. But we started that in 2004, end of 2004. So it was kind of, the med spa side of things, plus the boutique. Then we added hair in 2009. And then as different modalities have come out and become more mainstream, like cool sculpting or laser treatments or those kinds of things, we've added those in through the year. So we've really just continued to add and grow and add and grow. And we've never not had a growth year. So that's been awesome.
That's so cool. And then also on the personal side, tell us a little bit about what you have going on in your home life, a little bit about what that looks like.
Yeah. So my other full-time job. So I am a mom of 5 children. I've got a 16-year-old daughter, a 15-year-old son, a 12-year-old daughter, a 9-year-old son, and a 3-year-old son. So age ranges all across the board. I've got kids in preschool, elementary, junior high, high school. And then my husband, Tyler Bennett, he also owns a few different companies. He does real estate, has a mortgage branch, has an insurance company, and then who knows what else he has. I think lots of wives fall into that where, I don't know.
We don't know.
Those are the ones I know. So
if anybody knows another thing that Ty does, just let us know.
Yeah, let us know. If you're listening to the podcast and you know all the other things that Ty does, just let me know. Fill me in.
So one of the things that I've always loved, so Leigh and I have known each other for years and years. We actually met back in college. I had a group of guy friends that lived in a basement of a house. And then they had these really fun girls that I kept hearing about, but never got to meet, that lived upstairs. And then one day, I don't know why, but I think you were getting ready for a party or something and you came down. And so that's where we actually got to meet, was from our friends, our mutual friends. But it's been really fun to watch you build a life around these things that you love so much. I remember from the very beginning talking to you about skin and waxing and things like that, and you just lit up about being able to help people and serve and really create spaces where men, women, everybody felt amazing in their own bodies. And so that's been really fun to watch. So now let's talk a little bit about this really important piece, which is investing in yourself, because you cannot build what you've built in family, personal business without investing in yourself. So tell me a little bit about where you like to invest in yourself right now.
I mean, it kind of ebbs and flows. So, right now, currently, as my littlest is getting a little bit older, it is a little bit easier to invest back into working out every day and just a little bit of, more of the health side of things for me. But all along, through all of the years, I was taught at a really young age how important health was. I loved to work at a young age, and so I learned a lot about, working and investing in yourself in that aspect too, to grow and build something awesome. Whether it was when I was young working for someone else, I, was taught and innately maybe just knew that you worked hard, you networked, you built relationships, you made people feel amazing, and that helped to carry you forward. So all along, I think those are investments as well. So, investing in health, eating, fitness, sleeping, investing in your family, time with your family. I've always been a big believer of, if I'm with my family, I shut my phone off, and people always joke because they know like, well, Leigh won't have her phone, so call her assistant, or Leigh won't have her phone, call her sister, whoever I'm with. They know that I just kind of shut down my phone. And now that's become a really big thing that I think that people have to consciously do. And I've always kind of done that. And I think that's a big investment in my family. Just if I'm with my family, I'm with my family. If I'm at work, I'm at work. If I'm with my friends, I'm with my friends, so just investing in the people I'm with. So right now I feel like I just invest a lot of time and a lot of energy into a lot of things, which includes myself as well as other people, our guests, my employees, my family, and myself.
And so I know that with Amara, one of the big things that you do with your business, part of your business plan is investing in education for your team.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, that's something that is really unique to Amara. I've helped a lot of different salons and medical professionals with their business, and I've never seen that type of investment into education and making sure that people are knowing the standards and living up to standards. So why did that become so important for you?
I think because I love education so much, and I am always looking to learn, and it's always just been a part of who I've been, is just like learn, seek, invest. And I've always had this mantra of invest 10% of your time and 10% of your money back into whatever it is that you're doing. So back into yourself, back into your business, back into your family, back into, your employees, all of those kinds of things. And so for me, it's always been really important. And I think for my employees, just to kind of answer that question, my employees are very important to me, because if I don't have amazing employees, I can't continue to be passionate about my work and deliver that experience to our guests that I am so crazy passionate about. I want it to be a magical experience for my guests, which means I have to create a magical experience for my employees, and that's important. And so I think that, if you get too wrapped up in, costs, or this will cost too much, or they don't give back as much as I invest into them, or get too caught up in that you're never going to fully get an ROI or a return on your investment. So I just think going into it with like, hey, I am going to invest so much into my employees so that they give a world-class experience, that they love what they do, that they always feel empowered, and that they always feel like there is knowledge accessible and available to them. And I think that we've been able to attract the right people because of it. And so we've had, so many employees that have worked for us for such a long time. Even just yesterday, me and one of my location directors were talking about how cool it is that we have people come back all the time. And just this year, we've had 6 employees come back that went out in the workforce. Maybe we're looking for something different, maybe just timing of life, or even just the grass could have been greener. And just this year have had 6 alone come back. And it's really cool to hear their stories when they come back, because it has so much to do with, wow, I had no idea what I didn't know. And that you invest so much into us personally, that you really do care, that you invest so much time and money and efforts and resources into helping us to grow personally and professionally, not just professionally. And so I think that it's just really important to always invest in anything that you're trying to make grow. If you don't invest in it and wholeheartedly and give your all, and if you don't hold, or if you do hold back, then you're not going to get all that's intended to come your way. And so I've always just been blessed to continue to grow and to continue to have fun and love what I do, because I just always am willing to give, always.
Well, and I love that thought that you just shared, which is like, if you invest in things, like that's what grows. And so if we can continue to remember that mindset, it really does make such a difference. And I love that you talked about the investment not being just a financial investment, but it's a time investment. But I think that this is the part that I have always really admired about you, is that when we talk about time investment, we're not just talking about time on the clock, but it's like the actual mental time and the mental space to be, like you said, I'm here where I'm here. And that is sometimes what we're all missing, is we're saying to ourselves like, well, I'm going to go to the gym for an hour, but then we're on our phone and we're like multitasking, and we're not just focusing on what we're present with. And so how have you really cultivated that, being present wherever you are? Because you said, when I'm with my family, I'm with my family. How do you cultivate that of being present wherever it is that you're investing in?
It's a very conscious decision. It is a habit that you have to build. There's been times where I can feel it going away. Like, there's really no such thing as actual balance. Sometimes you're going to give more time and energy and, more of your mind to work, sometimes more to your family, sometimes more to your friends, sometimes more to your employees. And it does all kind of balance out, right? So I don't get too caught up in the whole actual balance of like exactly this many hours every day to this side of things and exactly this many hours to this side of things. But I do think that it's a conscious decision that we have to make. And when I can feel it slipping, which I do, I'm human, I'm normal. And if work is really busy, I can sometimes feel myself that like, hey, I'm like starting to be on my phone because I got to get work done. And so then it's like every spare second that like my kids aren't watching. So I just have to consciously tell myself like, hey, you'll get back to it tomorrow. If it is an emergency, they will call you 10 times, like someone else can take care of it. And I also think I just have really great people. I have such an amazing team too. So like that allows me at work to be able to delegate and hand off. And then I also communicate with my team like, hey, I may not respond for 24 to 48 hours because I leave every text blue till I can get to it. I don't read something until I'm in work mode and I have my calendar in front of me, my computer in front of me, so I can take good notes and not drop the ball. Do I drop the ball sometimes? Sure. But it allows me to 95% of the time to stay focused. And so it's just, again, when I'm at work, and I know that's when I start to go through my texts and emails and those important things. But it is very conscious, and any of us can slip. But I think everything in life is intentional. I think that the results that we want to get have to be intentional. The time, money, efforts, goals, outcomes, they're all intentional. And I think that most things seem like it's easier to take the easy route. But I think you even put something out on your Instagram maybe a couple weeks ago that I loved so much that said, this is hard, but so is this. Like staying stagnant is hard, but so is focusing on your goal. And I can't remember all of the gist of it, but I loved the message of it because I'm like, either thing is hard. And if you take it into, like lifestyle or working out, like it's hard to wake up early, but it's also hard to not work out and feel crappy. It's hard to prep meals to eat healthy, but it's also hard to feel like you're always living on bars or crappy food. So which hard do you want, right? Work is always going to, have hard moments, but, so is family life and all of those things. So what do? You have to pick and choose and say, okay, this is work time. This is family time. This is employee time. This is, me time, investing in me, my workout, my health, whatever it is. So I think that's how it has to be in order to answer your question. I always answer really long-winded. You guys are going to find out.
Hey, we love it. We love it.
But I think that's how is just very intentionally, very consciously. When I feel myself slip, I'm old enough now, right? Like we're in our 40s that we also have a lot of experience behind us. And was I that great when I was young?
Yeah.
No, probably not.
I think though that what you just said is really important, which is number one, the intentionality, but number two, just it's like being aware enough of yourself. And I think that that's what age has given both of us, is self-awareness enough to not judge it, not beat ourselves up, but also just not unconsciously not see what's happening, so that we really can say, oh, I can see what's happening here. Like I can really see a pull when my business, like you said, like is becoming too much. And then I haven't seen my friends enough. And I'm like, oh, I really need to just connect back to, you know, our girlfriends and just have time together. But it's like being aware of that, but not beating myself up for it and not getting in that space. So I love that you talked about that. I loved also, and I like took mental note of this because I was like, okay, I've got to do this. When you said that you don't look at text messages without having your calendar, your email, like that blew my mind. I was like, how often have I opened email in bed, watching a movie where I know that I am not intentional about doing anything about that email? Like I know that I'm not going to go in and, you know, share the link or, you know, create the calendar invite or whatever. So that just really like, even for me, blew my mind. I was like, that is so crucial to like, yeah, why am I opening an email when I'm watching a movie? That just doesn't make sense. So I love that. That's great.
Well, and I think it's had to become like a forced intentionality because I'll get at least 200 text messages a day. So in order for me to deliver an amazing experience to my guests, to my family, to our employees, to whatever, I can't drop the ball very often or I lose trust and respect. I can't open something and say, yeah, I'll get to it and not get to it, right? And because most of the text messages that I get need attention or have a question, need something answered, a problem solved, a date booked, a something. I learned very quickly that I don't like the feeling when I drop the ball. So I would rather just communicate. Here's how I operate. Here's what you're going to get from me. And I may not respond to you in those moments because in the daytime, I am front facing. I do not live on my computer or phone. I'm in meetings, education, trainings, interviews, hiring, paperwork, like all of those things. And so there could be an entire day where I'm 8 hours not even looking at my phone, even to where my kids, like if there's an emergency, they'd have to call work, right? Back like the olden days. And so, but it's been really good because I feel like, you know, now there's grace when I drop the ball because of course I'm human and there's times where I do something and I forget to do it, or even if I write it down, somehow I forget. But that has helped so much in trying to manage, you know, business at home because running a household is kind of like a business, right? Like where do the kids got to be? What birthday party do we got to plan? What presents do we got to buy? What events are coming up? You know, where do they got to be dropped off at school? Who's picking up who when? You know, who needs attention, love, this, that. And so even just to operate, you know, for those that are, you know, stay-at-home moms, I think that all of this information is helpful because everything can become very intentional and then it doesn't feel chaotic. And I feel like people always, you know, wonder like, well, how do you do it? How do you still love it? How do you love being a mom and work and all of these things that you get to do? And it's because it's not that stressful. It's not that chaotic because it's very intentional. And it just becomes fun and I get to still be passionate instead of like, oh my gosh, I can't get to all this, or I told them this, or what was I supposed to remember? Mm-hmm. So.
Well, and the passion's, I think the biggest part there is like, if we can continue to stay passionate about things. And so for anybody that's listening to this to kind of remember, like if you've lost your passion in one area of your life, and it's not just business, it can be like your marriage or being a mom or, you know, your friendships or things like that, really to come back to yourself and kind of ask yourself and do that self-evaluation of like, well, where did I lose it along the way? What got in the way of being passionate about this thing that now, and then really asking yourself, do I want to keep it?
Yeah.
And I think that that's the other question is not just what happened, but it's like, and is this still serving me? The one thing that I wanted to kind of talk about is friendships because being friends for so long, I want to kind of just give my perspective of friendships. And then I'd love to have your input on it as well.
Love it.
I think one of the reasons that you and I have been able to stay really good friends for so long is our ability to have this mindset that we love each other regardless of where we're at in our lives and that we don't need to be daily texting, right? Like,
yeah, you fell into my 200. I fell into your 200.
But I think that that is a really important part because I think that when we talk about friendships, I think that really looking at mindset, because I do know that occasionally people get in the mindset of like, we haven't talked for so long, so I guess we're not friends anymore. And what I kind of wanted to to recognize, because I know I have a lot of people ask me about adult friendships.
Yeah.
And then I had somebody just the other day say, how do you become friends with successful women? And this is the thing that I was thinking as I was like, okay, I have these really successful women that I'm friends with. How do we stay connected? And I think the one thing that I can think of is understanding that success is going to take us in different directions, and that we need to, number one, be intentional about coming together. But number two, when you're doing your thing and I'm doing my thing, it has nothing to do with like not loving each other.
Yep.
And I think that that is the thing, is so intentionally scheduling time to be together, and then intentionally cheering people on and knowing that, you know what, we might not see each other for a couple months, but that has nothing to do with our friendship. So what would you add to that as far as creating successful relationships with people that are successful? And how do you kind of incorporate your mindset about that?
I'd probably say I just always take this approach, which I don't know if this is like nutso advice, but this approach of like, never be offended. People, like, I love everyone and everyone loves me. And if they don't, I don't even know about it. Or maybe I do, and that's okay too. But I think that so often we overthink everything. And I just think, like, just don't overthink it. Like, if you haven't talked for a while, reach out, be the one that reaches out, but you can't expect to be reached out to if you're not reaching out. And then just know that people have a lot going on. Like, all through the years, I've got great friends, so many of them that we've been friends for so long. And like you said, like sometimes it even could be a couple years that we haven't connected, but it might be they moved away, they went to med school, they were having kids, maybe one of their kids was going through an illness.
Divorce is a big one. Yeah.
All those kinds of things, but it doesn't mean that we ever stop loving each other. And I think that when we overthink those things, then we put a wedge between a friendship that didn't even need to be a wedge. So I think just always just showing up and kindness and hugs and loves and how have you been and what's been going on, and just that connectivity. And then I do make it a point, and I think that like this could be good advice, but that at least once a week I'm reaching out, thanking someone, saying, hi, how have you been? And I have a large, I'm, have had 40 years in the same county. So I love a lot of people and have made lots of friendships over the years. And so, it may not even be that I connect to my closest friends on a weekly basis, but just to reach out to someone like, how are you? What's going on? Let's get together, or just a, how are you? Or, hey, thank you so much. Or, hey, by the way, way back when, this is random, and I know that I still don't know you very well, but I just wanted to thank you for XYZ. It really helped me along. Even I would say, as I was driving here, I was thinking, like, this is going to be so fun to do a podcast with Carrie. And how cool is it that I met Carrie in college randomly, right? With totally the guys that lived downstairs. We lived upstairs and we connected, right? Mm-hmm. And that was so much fun. But then you supported me and you came and you got waxed and you sent Emma and you sent your mom and you sent Aaron. And then all of a sudden, everyone just sent, and you were so instrumental in just my success. And so I thought, I need to thank Carrie for that. Have I thanked you? Probably not. But I think just once in a while reaching out and being like, gosh, Carrie, thank you so much. Like, you have no idea how important you were in me being successful, and you didn't even know it. You were just happy and loved to get waxed and sent
absolutely.
Everybody.
I was going to say best waxer ever.
Right?
Leigh and Tess, I can attest to this. Leigh and Tess are the best waxers ever. But it's so easy once our friends have something really great to offer to be able to support. And so I wanted to kind of bring this up because it's something we were actually together at a cabin with some of our best girlfriends, just kind of hanging out. But we were talking about supporting each other in our businesses. Mm-hmm. And so how do you support others in their business? Like and how do you like to be supported in your business?
I just think it's really cool to learn about other people's businesses and what they're going through and what's working and what's not working, and just investigating. And I think that a crucial skill set to learn, and I wish that, kids could learn more of this in school, but is like the art of asking questions, and then the art of listening, and then the art of asking more questions on top of listening to dive in deeper. And I think that that's how you really support each other, is just learning like, wow, man, that is so cool. Like, how did you start? What's been hard? What's been fun? What are you passionate about? Tell me more about that. Oh my gosh, that's insane. I'd love to learn even more. And you just dive deeper. And I think that that's where support comes from, because until like, I think every human has a really cool story. And I've always thought, man, if everyone wrote a book about their life, what they've learned, what they've gone through, like we would all think that everyone is a superhero, that everyone is super cool, that everyone like, and we would have so much more grace and compassion and respect to cheer each other on and to support each other, because everyone has really cool stories, but you can't support each other until you learn about someone, until you really build a relationship and understand like, where are they coming from? What did they do? Why do they do it? Why do they love it? You know, and how did they get into that, or what's their journey been? So,
well, and asking, like you said, asking really good questions is so important. And it just comes from curiosity and love for people. And that's one thing that I think, you know, as we look at connecting with others, it's like, do you love people?
Yeah.
And if not, like work on that. But the next one is the curiosity about just, I think that all too much we're trying to have something to say to people, right? Instead of just like pausing and like asking questions about them. I think that that's so key. So let's kind of talk about being moms.
Yeah,
it's something that you and I both we love our kids, love to be moms, but you have a really busy household. I like to say that you have super athletes that you live with.
Yeah. They are super in my mind.
I agree. I agree with that. So you have kids that are really involved, that are doing a lot. They have their own passions. They have their own interests that are kind of taking them different directions. So with that big span of kids, 5 kids from high school all the way down to kindergarten, did you say, or preschool? Preschool.
3 years old.
Yeah. So preschool to high school. What lights you up about being a mom to all those amazing kids?
You know, it's really cool that I was even reflecting on this weekend is, you know, when I was younger, I actually didn't even like dream about kids or want to babysit that often. I would do it for money because I loved money. But I like didn't have this like, I'm just going to be a mom when I grow up and stuff like that. And so it's been really fascinating to be able to, you know, get married and have kids and be a mom and think, wow, how am I so blessed to have these kids? And I get 5 of them and they're their own people. And I think that that's kind of one of the funnest parts for me is just getting really curious about my kids and how different they all are, and figuring it out. So I think it's probably like the rest of my life. I really like solving problems, puzzle pieces, getting curious and stuff
Learning.
like that. So so being a mom has been really fascinating. It has had its hard moments. It's had its breakdowns, its crying sessions. But it's so fun to learn and to realize, you know, what you're doing great, where you're making mistakes, talking through with your kids, like, yeah, like I don't know what I'm doing, so let's do this together, or apologizing when you need to apologize, or creating moments where, you know, you just intentionally have fun or intentionally goof off or intentionally get serious and have serious conversations and stuff. So I don't know, it's been kind of really incredible and different than I think what I imagined it would be, right?
That's
like,
exactly.
I was thinking like permed hair, moo, like, I don't know.
I think that that's exactly, though, you just described it perfectly for me as well, of like, it's very different. I think that being a mom to little kids was exactly how I thought it was going to be. Being a mom to teenagers is so much better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, tell me more.
I just think it's really fun to be able to experience life with my older kids. And, you know, now I have 11 to 15. So I put them all in that category of like, I mean, they could survive. You know, that's part of what, I mean, they really don't need me necessarily.
Summer of Independence, right?
Summer of Independence rules.
You, Carrie,
absolutely.
Is you do this Summer of Independence. And I think it's so cool that you're, you know, teaching them, you know, how to just, okay, you want to bake, you got to figure it out. Okay.
Absolutely.
You want to do this, you got to figure it out. And that's been really cool to watch over the summers as I see your kids do Summer of Independence, or even just was it Osh that went to the like
leadership camp,
you know, stuff like that. I think is so stinking cool.
Yeah, but it's really fun to have older kids to be able to experience life with them and be able to, you know, like you said, figure out who they are and watch them figure out for themselves who they are. And I think the other thing that's part of that is, and then to be able to do it with my best friend. So to be able to parent with Curtis is really fun. It's really fun to be able to watch how differently we do things. And that's kind of a misconception that I had when I was a younger parent, was that him and I needed to be on the same page with everything. And that there are some things that are like, yes, I will go to war for this thing that I really want us both to do.
We need to be on the same page.
But there are other things that I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? You can do that differently than I do. And that's okay. So that's been really cool.
That is cool. That's actually good for me, because I do tend to still sometimes think that we have to be on the same page. And maybe it's just because we have the ranges of like bedtime, naps, like all the things, that when my kids were little, I was very, very just scheduled and strategic about those things, like trying to just, make sure that we could operate. And so that's a good reminder. Thanks, Care.
Yeah, you bet. So I know that you have always had these big dreams and goals that you've gone after. What do you think helps you to put your eye on the prize and just go after things without like worry, or how do you overcome that?
That is a really great question, because maybe there is something that doesn't click right? Because I always just think I can do that. I can figure it out. I'll figure it out. What's the worst that can happen?
I was going to say, I think that that's good though, because so I had Katie Mortensen. Katie's one of our other really good girlfriends. Katie was on the podcast and she said the exact same thing. She said, I can figure it out. And so I think that there is something to that thought and that belief about being able to figure things out that really helps anybody go after things and be able to say like, I can figure it out. But that doesn't come without failure. And stress and overwhelm, right?
I think that's how I think the more failures that you have, the more you're empowered to know that you can figure it out, because through failure, you continue to learn, okay, that didn't work. So then that might mean that this maybe could work. And maybe that next one's a failure. So then it's like, okay, those two didn't work. So maybe that means this. It makes you have to continue to think and continue to expand your mindset behind, well, what could work then? And I think that's the question is always, well, what could work, but get after it. And I mean, I didn't grow up with money. I didn't grow, any of those things where it was like, I don't know. I just was always like, well, I can figure it out. And what's the worst that can happen? It's not like I have to live in this big house. Do I love money? Do I love big houses? Do I love nice things? Absolutely. I think that's a part of my drive too, is I always wanted more of that as well, which I think there's nothing wrong with that. But I also know like, okay, well, it's fine. It's not like I will crumble if I have to downsize if this doesn't work, or, like, again, just what's the worst that can happen is always going through my mind. And I feel like that's what I always talk through with my employees, like today, even I had a call, like, what's the worst that can happen? And guess what? You are going to make mistakes. And I tell them, like, if you actually don't, that worries me, because it means you're not taking risks and you're not actually learning. And so, what's the worst that can happen? Like, no one's going to die if you mess up on someone's hair. Do we feel awful for that client? Yes. And that's hard, right? But unless that stylist or nurse or esthetician or my kids, unless we fail, we don't learn. And unless we have the mindset of like, okay, what's the worst that can happen? Okay, just go for it. Like, we never build confidence unless we have courage. And it's another favorite quote is courage trumps confidence, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody always says, well, just be confident, right? Even to young kids, like, just be confident. And I'm like, actually, just have courage. If you have courage to go do what's hard, to go do what's scary, even if it's just going and asking the neighbor for an egg, or, if it's, calling for your own doctor's appointment as a high school student or whatever it is, those things are scary when it's our very first time. Everything is hard until it's easy. Mm-hmm. But courage trumps confidence, because you have to have the courage to do something so many times till you build that confidence. So,
well, and you're in an industry where you are helping a lot of 19, 18, 20-year-olds figure out how to have courage to do these things. And we were talking about that is, let's talk a little bit about the pandemic, because that was a very interesting time for your business. Mm-hmm, so you talk us through a little bit about the pivots that you had to make in order to create, continue your business through the pandemic. And then we'll talk a little bit about the training that had to happen afterwards as well.
Yeah. Well, that was a fascinating time, because I had never laid anyone off in my entire life. And overnight we had to lay off 100 employees. We've got 100 plus employees at Amara. And then as things came back, we had to rehire and do paper. And with all that, it's not just like click a button, lay off, click a button, rehire. It's paperwork and state stuff. And my, poor HR payroll gal, like she was amazing, but I mean, that was just a heavy load on her and whatnot. And so that in itself was just really fascinating because I'd never done that before. So that's cool. Now we know how to do it if we ever have to, which I don't anticipate we ever will again. And then bringing everyone back. And that's been the most fascinating thing is, again, learning how to adapt and adjust, because with everything, it changes. Over all history of time, things continue to adjust and change, and you have to be willing to pivot and adjust and expand your mindset. And what worked before doesn't work anymore a lot of the times. And so there were a lot of things that didn't work, a lot of people that couldn't or didn't come back to work for various reasons of, just because of the pandemic. And so when we came back, like we had a lot of employees that came back, but there were some that couldn't, that they had to move away for husband's jobs. They had to do something different just because it spun their life in a different direction. And so all of our programs went to pot, our systems and processes went to pot. We basically almost had to just rebuild everything, reinvent everything. And that's a lot of work, having a business for 18 years and reinventing, like that's hard, but it was amazing. And I'm so grateful for it because so many cool new things have come about because you're forced to have them come about. And so we have better, stronger programs than we've ever had before, better retention than we've ever had before, better education programs than we've ever had before, new understandings that we've had to learn just around the psychology of, people and what's going on with this, young crowd that's graduating, that went through it through high school or through, their trade schooling to become, esthetician, a nurse, a stylist or whatever. So it's been really cool and I'm super grateful for it. It's been awesome and we're stronger than ever, which is actually really cool. So,
well, and it's once again goes back to the mindset of like, a lot of people took that time as like, this is the most hard thing or that was the worst thing. But to be able to say like, okay, well, we're all going through it and it is hard and it does suck. But then what am I going to tell myself about the circumstance? Because I know that a lot of people kind of say, like I work with one business guy that's like, I wish I could burn the business down so that I could start fresh. And I essentially said exactly what you said. I said, well, technically you did, but you just missed the opportunity, like to actually rebuild. But one thing that you mentioned was that now we have this group of people that were graduating through the pandemic, that were training at trade schools through the pandemic, and that their experiences now come into the trade of, working for Amara or whatever. And you mentioned to me, like there were some people that had never even cut hair on an actual person. And so how did you now start hiring and transition with that group of people that maybe didn't have the experience that you thought they were going to get, like we thought before?
Yeah. Because a lot of the, trade schools for our industry are anywhere from 3 to 12 months, right? So for any said group, like that whole year or 2 years, like they missed the opportunity to go to schooling the way it used to be, right? And so then it was online school, not seeing guests, obviously, because that was like ours is you have to see guests, you have to touch people, you have to cut their hair, you have to wax, you have to, perform laser treatments, like you're touching people. And so for them to not get that hands-on experience was tricky because, they were enrolled and then everything shuts down. And so they're trying to, schools are trying to do the best that they can too, to navigate it and give the best that they can. And we work with local schools and they're amazing, but so everyone's trying to do the best they can. But yeah, a lot of these students just didn't and are still not getting quite as much hands-on as they used to. And that's been kind of a pivotal change, and the schools have had to adjust and adapt, and students have had to adjust and adapt. But there's two things that I noticed. One, we needed to create better, stronger programs to close the gap between school and being a professional, because we care a whole lot about that guest experience. And so we need to still figure out as a company how to create programs and systems and stuff like that. So we've got really neat education programs that every single new hire goes through in every department, even guest services. And you don't have to go to school to be guest services, right? But there is better training programs, stronger training programs to close the gap and to help people to understand what does that look like. What are Amara systems and processes, as well as, the actual trade, the actual skill set. And then we invest a lot more time, and we already did, but in mindset, personal growth, growth, professional growth. Like we're closing down for an entire Monday. It'll cost us about $40,000 this coming Monday to shut down our company and train our entire staff and one day we've got our consultant flying in and stuff. But we just work really hard to continue to help our team with just the psychology of that. And what I have noticed is that group, that younger group, is really instilled with fear and anxiety. But if you think about it, it was be scared of everything, shut down, don't talk to people, like be scared of it all. Whereas we are in our 40s and we've gone through lots of different things. And I was like, don't be scared. It's fine. It's all going to work out. There's always been big things that come about. We've been through a lot of them, a lot of really detrimental things through our lives, right? The crash in 2008, 9/11, things when we were kids, think of our grandparents. They've been through multiple crazy things where they thought that maybe nothing would recover, the economy wouldn't recover, or whatever, right? Yeah. But we all know like, okay, it will. But that young group, for a lot of them, that was their very first time going through something. And never have we been told like, shut people out, don't talk to people, don't look at people, don't smile at people. And so then that's the psychology that we've been working with and working on. It's just like, the anxiety and helping people get through anxiety. And a lot of it is me, helping just like, hey, I know it's scary. We're going to do this together. I know it's scary, but we have programs. I know it's scary, but look, you've got this person right here by your side, but I'm still going to make you do it. Mm-hmm. We're still going to get through it, because with a lot of those anxieties, that's the only way to get through it is to actually do the hair, right? But we've got better, stronger programs now that really do hold their hand. We've got education directors that, they all have to go through these courses so that we also feel comfortable that they're going to be able to deliver a great experience to our paying guests, right? And then we've got a level system. So they're level 1. So they charge less and just kind of appropriately, just like if you're a new attorney versus a really seasoned attorney that's won a lot of cases, right? Like you're not going to be charging $1,000 an hour right out of school as a lawyer, but as you earn that right and win more cases and become more valuable, then you start to charge more. So that's really cool too, because if people are booking with our level 1, they know that they have all of that education experience, that they're going to get a great baseline service, but that then they get to grow and continue to grow and get compensated for that and add more value to the guests as they move on.
Well, and I love that you saw that there was a gap between school and being a professional, and that then you decided to take that on as a company and say, because a lot of people, I see them say like, oh, you need to make that up yourself. Like that's up to you. But that was, I think, the difference with Amara is that you said, we see the gap and let's go ahead. We're going to take that on as a company. We will invest in it. We will invest in you. We'll invest in those programs. And so that's really cool to be able to see that.
Well, and I think people get scared of the money side because the, tens of thousands that we're now investing per year in that, people could get scared by that, but I don't even think about that. We track it. We know how much we spend and all that. But again, I think employee retention, I think that them feeling taken care of and that we're willing to invest in them.
And then the guest service, which that's my side that I get to be a part of, which is that really amazing experience that all of your guests get to have. And, I have to just share this because it's so cool, but it's not just like the hair side, it is the boutique side as well. We had this crazy family picture coming up that we didn't know about. The photographer I wanted to use had a last minute booking that fell through. So she called me. I literally had like 3 hours.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
And so I was like, well, what do we wear? And immediately Amara came up. My daughter's school is just down the road, but they were in school. And I'm like, how am I going to get teenagers? Because, they want to feel cute. And so I went to Amara and I said, listen, here's the situation. I had 2 amazing guest service people. I said, I'm going to go grab my daughters from school at lunch, come up. They have 10 minutes. And I said, I need you guys to pick outfits for these kids. And then we'll base, everything else. It was incredible, Leigh. I mean, it was such a cool thing to be able to watch them. They had 5 outfits for each of them. I mean, they were so cute. The girls came in, they worked with them, they grabbed stuff. We had outfits in 10 minutes. And then I was just back there today and they were so like, they remembered me. They were like, how are family pictures? How did the girls feel? But I thought that was what training came. Like to be able to watch your training system. I was like, that was the training system in action. Like a really cool experience for me where I was like a stressed out mom, right?
Yeah.
But I just think that goes to show like how much your company, your employees love people.
Yep.
Because it wasn't about like, oh, what, this and that. It was like, here's a mom that needs us and here's how we can help her and her kids. And it was just a really cool experience. So I think that understanding that the investment at first can feel scary.
Yeah.
And that the investment at first can feel like you're tracking dollars and cents and all of that. Like, where is it going to pay off? But then to know that, like you said, the mindset of like, it's going to pay off and we track it, but we have to really remind ourselves that it's about the investment in people, the investment in training in people that matters. And that if we can just believe that in the end, it all works out and that the training then translates to our guests, is so huge.
Money always follows magical experiences, right? Mm-hmm. You love a restaurant, you go back, you tell 1 million people. You love a protein bar, you know, you tell 1 million people. You love, you know, some experience or movie or book that you've read or, you know, vacation you've been on. You love it. You had a great experience. You were treated well, all those things. You will tell people about it. Money always follows. And I think that, you know, in my role, I'm a problem solver. So we're always working to increase and expand and make those experiences better. And so I love to hear that because, you know, we definitely still make mistakes and, you know, have, you know, room for growth. But I also love that we're never going to stop working to give even more magical experiences, to connect with the guests, to build better relationships. But it is all very intentional. And there is so much training and accountability that comes into play. And we can't let off of the gas. If as an owner, even you in your business, right? If you just decide, well, I've done so many podcasts, I can just stop doing them now. Like then your podcast, you know, goes away basically.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And so you always have to keep, you know, the gas on. Sometimes the gas is on a little heavier, sometimes a little lighter, but you have to just make sure that you're still very intentional on those systems, those processes, education, and then accountability to those systems. And I feel like that's kind of the role, is just making sure that like, hey, we've got this written on paper. Now we got to bring it to life and make sure that those experiences are magical.
Yeah. So for kind of our younger population, we have actually a lot of younger people that listen to this podcast. How do you tell people or help them see how to find passion when they're looking at jobs?
I also think that passion for life is a very conscious and intentional decision. And I think that, again, I mean, I know you live in this world, but the more we tell ourselves that something is great, something's incredible, something is this or that, like I truly believe I probably could love 1,000,000 jobs because I've had 1,000,000 and I've always liked them. I've always learned from them. They've always opened new doors to new opportunities. And so I think that you have to first go into life with the mindset of like, what can I learn? How can I get to know new people, more people? How can I create value for whoever I'm working for? Or if I'm starting my own business, how can I create value for my potential guests and stuff like that? And then, you know, keeping that passion is a conscious choice. You have to wake up each day and be intentional about like, I love my life. Things are amazing, because if not, there's enough unamazing things that happen in all of our lives every single day that we could go down a rabbit hole. Like, oh, you know, this kid, this is happening. This is this. I was tired. I didn't want to work out. I didn't want to go to work today. Or I'm so grateful I get to go to work today. I'm so grateful, you know, that I get to experience being tired because I don't love it. I'm going to get more sleep tonight, or whatever it looks like. And that sounds really weird, but I think if people start to practice that and just, you know, be grateful, be more intentional and mindful about being passionate about life, I think that people will find that they will find passion in their jobs, passion in their careers, and it will lead down doors that they didn't even know were available. Because if we're so closed-minded and don't love our life already, new doors won't open for us. So how do we expect new doors to open if we hate everything that we do, even the current job? Like, maybe it's not what your end goal is, but if you can figure out how to be passionate about whatever you're doing and add value, new doors will open.
And that's so key. That passion is intentional, and it needs to just remain, like, it's not something that you're running after. It's something that you're creating right now. And then, like you said, then doors and things open for you, which is really, really fun to watch. Okay. So now we need to talk.
Oh no, just kidding.
This is now just girl talk. Okay. So now I want to talk about something, because you have, in November, which is when this is going to come out, your business is doing something really cool with cool sculpting. So I want to talk a little bit about this process, because I've been blown away. I've been posting about cool sculpting this week, blown away by how many people have questions about this.
I love it.
So first off, let's talk a little bit about cool sculpting in general. Like, what is it? Now, this is a treatment that you guys offer at Amara, but let's talk a little bit about it, because like I said, I was blown away by the response of people asking questions about this. So what is cool sculpting, and why do you guys offer it at Amara?
Okay, so Cool Sculpting is an incredible technology that basically is similar to a liposuction treatment, but with no surgery, no downtime, no side effects, simple, easy, but it basically removes fat cells forever. The reason why it's so popular and why you're probably getting so many questions is because first and foremost, people actually care more about their fat, their physical looks than they actually do even about wrinkles and those kinds of things. So we do Botox, we do fillers, we do laser treatments, we do lash extensions, we do all sorts of things at Amara. But fascinatingly enough, people care. When you look in the mirror, you see that or think about it first. When you get dressed, you think about it. You know, I know that moms are like, oh, I had a baby and now my muffin top, or my body's different, or, you know, like we're always thinking about it. Men too. Men, we underestimate how often they actually care about it too. We all care. And that is a beautiful thing to care, because our bodies are here to serve us and to support us to do all the things that we want to do in life. But because it is the number one thing that people think about, people are so fascinated by it. However, it is somewhat newer technology. It's been around for, like 15 years or so, but 15 years isn't a very long time for a product to be out in the market to become really mainstream, like getting your hair done, right? Like most of us get a haircut, color, something done with our hair, women and men. But Cool Sculpting is still growing and needs a lot of education around it. What is it? Fears behind it. But it really is just that easy. I have Cool Sculpted so many of my body parts, which is amazing. I've always been healthy and fit and been conscious and worried about my body, but it is just like potato peeled off these little extra bulges, the little places that I haven't loved. And I have loved it so much because it has given me just that little extra confidence that I love to have. I'll take any support I can get if I'm doing the work myself, and then I can get a little bit of support on the side to just continue to help me to show up to life better, feel more confident, more beautiful, fit better in clothes, whatever. I will take it all day long. I will pay for it.
Absolutely.
Especially no downtime, no drugs, no surgery, no anything. And again, for you, like you were in, and then you
I'm doing a podcast today.
Right? Like you went to your kids after or whatever.
Yeah. So I got it done today for the very first time, and it's a really cool process. Like I really thought it was going to be a little bit more uncomfortable. I thought it was going to be harder. And it was like I was hanging out and talking with everybody.
Yeah. Like you're just chatting, hanging out with some girlfriends.
Yeah. And then it was like, am I done? Oh, I really do need to go pick up my kids and do a podcast. And it was like nothing. So we talk about investing. We've talked about investing in, our business and our kids and all of these things. But I think that that's one thing that as we talk about investing in ourselves, that's where I've always struggled is I like to give to everywhere else. And then, so, talking with you and being able to say like, it's okay to invest in yourself. It's actually better for everybody when we're investing in ourselves. And I think that being able to have these types of services available so that you can really help people learn how to invest in themselves is so amazing. And so here's what I'm going to offer for everybody that's kind of awesome is that if you're local to us, I want to just challenge everybody to, if you're interested in this, go and get a consult. Like I was really looking at like where the hard parts are. And most of the time it's that people are so afraid of being judged, of having a hard sell of like, oh, and then they're going to try and sell me way too hard. But I just want to kind of offer for everybody, like, really, you can't work with better people than the people at Amara. The consult process is so amazing. You get to talk about you in a private location. You get to sit and just say, here's where I've struggled with the rest of my entire life. And the people that are doing it are amazing. They're so great at just like, hey, I've been there, or I help people with this. And then you get to have your options given to you. And so if you're ever interested in it, if you're local, please reach out to Amara, because as we were doing it today, I asked everybody, what do you wish everybody would know? And Jocelyn, who is helping me out with my Cool Sculpting today, said, she goes, I wish everybody knew that the consult wasn't scary.
Yeah.
And that we are here to
see people
help.
For how they look. We see people for beautiful, kind human beings that have the same struggles that we have. And we're here to just help with anything that you've got. We have so many services and options to support you in helping you to feel better so that you show up to life better. And I guarantee you, if you feel better about yourself, whether that's getting your hair colored or, your eyebrows waxed or some Botox, which I love, or I love every service.
Love some good
I love
Botox.
every service. So we can talk for hours. Or, getting Cool Sculpting hunting done, maybe laser hair removal because you have black hair and that bugs you and you don't want to get in a swimming suit, whatever it is. We all show up to life better when we take care of ourselves. And it is okay to spend time and money investing in ourselves so that we can show up to life better. I promise you'll show up to the interview better, maybe show up at home as a wife better or a husband better, to your spouse. You'll show up to your friends better when you just have that little boost of you feel good. You can give goodness. You can give more goodness when you feel good. If you wake up and you feel sloppy and you feel fat or you feel not cute or you feel tired or whatever, you don't give as much of yourself. So that's what I think is so fascinating and really cool, because we get to interact with beautiful humans every day, really get to build relationships with our guests, which again, we got to build in very intimate settings, waxing Brazilians for a living.
Absolutely.
But we became like super great friends for our lives. And it had nothing to do with like, I'm judging you because I'm waxing your naked body or, we're just here to help. And in any way that we can, whether it's through the relationship that we build, the services that we do, and just helping people out there to know like, it's good to invest in yourself. I promise you'll give back 10 times more.
And like we said, it's not something, if you can just really watch that mindset around coming and asking for help and saying like, but to remind yourself, like, this is what Leigh, her team, her staff, and even people in the industry are doing for a living because they care so much about people. I think that that's one thing that I've always loved about coming to Amara, like I said, is just that you can really have those honest conversations and say, what do you have for this? Like, how can you help me for this? So well, thank you so much for being here. We could chat for hours.
I know. I'm like, wow, we could go on forever. And I'm not even asking you anything. I know. This feels so lopsided.
I know. But, okay, last question that I want to ask you is if you could give advice to entrepreneurs in this climate, because there's a lot of fear right now around being an entrepreneur, what would the advice be for everybody that is being an entrepreneur now?
Well, there's always a slogan that comes into my mind that I teach, and it's the Nike slogan, just do it. Don't overthink it, just do it. Go after it. Just like you can figure it out. We are resourceful human beings. We are crazy smart. If we allow ourselves to be and go after something, like we can accomplish a lot. So just do it. And then I think in climate in general, something that I always get asked, just because I'm a mom and I work and I love it all and I do truly feel like I can do it all. I think that, just the guilt factor of, if there's something that you want to go after, be intentional about it. Know what's out there. Like, do you have a family? Are you going to need to navigate through, giving more time? What does that look like for you so you don't, run yourself ragged? What does that look like for your family? What does that look like for what you're trying to, do or start or accomplish? And then just go after it without this mindset of like guilt or shame. And that does come up a lot in a ton of conversations. I think that I have, and probably that you have, is, I just feel so guilty if I want to do something for myself and or I want to work or even I want to invest in myself. Or I have a lot of friends that like, well, I can't work out because my husband won't babysit. I'm like, yes, he will. I bet he will if you just talk to him about, how important it is and, showing up for yourself. So there's all these different arenas. Again, we could talk forever, but, show up for yourself and then just do it. Just go after it.
So fun. Well, thanks for being here. Love you so much.
Love you, Care.
Thanks for listening to this podcast episode. If you're ready to get in the driver's seat of your own life, you can come and follow me at Drive Your Thoughts Coaching on Instagram, or come and see more ways to work with me at driveyourthoughts.com.
Yeah, whether ready or not, life's coming hard, no breaks, no stop. And if you put me on the spot, don't get it twisted, I never drop. If you feel a bit out of control and out the box, here's a way that you could drive your thoughts. Turn this podcast on, it's a lock. Carrie Marshall on the clock.